What's up, guys? Today's shout out is gonna go to Ace Prodigy. He is a rising singer in Tallahassee and works closely with the famous Rollin Styles. And he has a background in entrepreneurship and an expertise in cryptocurrency. And now he's investing that money into his business and making it grow. And his songs are actually quite catchy, so I would check him out if I were you. His Instagram is Ace Prodigy Official. And with that, let's get this show started. My name's Adonis, and for 2 years I went to the fucking club every night with FSU students. And as someone who was a regular clubster, it came with a lot of drama, a lot of girls, and a whole lot of chaos. This is the Tallanasty podcast. It is Friday, so we are gonna go to the fucking club. Saturday we're going to the fucking club. Sunday, fun day, go to the fucking club. Monday is Labor Day, so we're gonna go to the fucking club. Flat Tech Tuesday, go to the fucking club. White Trash Wednesday, go to the fucking club. 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 Club. Alright, so in my last episode, I spoke about a guy named Sidhu who found out my address and fought me in the middle of the night. Why? Because apparently his phone was making too much noise when I was texting in the group chat. There was more to the argument, but that's the short version of it. But if you want to hear the full version, then listen to the previous episode. Anyway, after I put that episode out, Sidhu tried to reach me through a couple friends, and I'll tell you exactly what he said. So, Sidhu said, "Yo, Adonis, I've apologized to you numerous times, but I understand that my actions are unforgivable, but including my name on that podcast episode and saying most of the things which were an exaggeration of the incident, which is clearly defamation after it's happened, it isn't right. I'm respectfully asking that you either take my name out of the title and podcast or take it down." Now, guys, I can tell you right now, everything that I say on this podcast is 100% true to my knowledge. Every now and then I might mention something that I may have heard from a friend, which I have always specified if I heard something from someone else and didn't experience it for myself. But a majority of these episodes is about stuff that I've experienced. You know, nightclubs tend to have a lot of drama involved around them. And as someone who decided to make nightclubs my entire personality and hang out in them every night, there was a lot of drama with it. Now, whether Sidhu feels bad or not, I don't know. All I know is that by him tracking down my address, he was a complete psychopath. And while I won't be sharing this publicly, but I do have proof of everything that I said in the last episode. Matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could go to the police station, because when the fight happened, only Sidhu and his friends had that video, so I didn't really have proof that it happened, which is why the cops told me that they said they couldn't do anything. But now that all the evidence has been leaked, I have all the proof I need about what happened. But I haven't, because I said, well, you know, Sidhu's probably had enough with almost getting kicked out of his frat, and, everyone messaging his Instagram account. Well, apparently I was too soft on him, because here's the thing with Sidhu is he never goes away. He might leave me alone for a few weeks after he's confronted by multiple people, or he might leave me alone for months even. But this is a perfect example of him coming after me and claiming that I'm making this shit up. And I swear to you not, he always comes back. He always comes back and messes with me. And I said, there's one thing, making an honest mistake and owning up to it, and then there's another thing when you are a complete psychopath. This guy literally tracks down my address, comes to my house, and fights me with 5 other guys behind him to back him up in case I get the upper hand. Because he brought those other guys with him for a reason. If he was confident that he would have won that fight, he would have come by himself. He would have taken an Uber or driven his car. But he showed up with 4 to 5 other guys in the car. That being said, there was one guy in that group that night, which I won't say his name to protect his privacy. But he was the guy who gave me water, like, during the fight. And, I ran into him at the strip recently, and he came up to me, and he said, he pretty much mentioned the fight briefly, then started to talk about something else. I don't think that he's a bad person, unlike Sidhu and the rest of his friends. I think he's a genuinely good person who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, got talked into doing the same thing, made a bad decision. So, when I saw him last, I did forgive him. That being said, I still think that the situation was partially his fault because he knew that Sidhu wanted to fight me and still drove him to my house. I don't know him well enough to tell you why he did what he did, but what I can tell you is that Sidhu is someone who is rotten to the core. He's apologizing to make himself look like the good guy, and he's claiming that I'm exaggerating the story when I literally have hard evidence. Another situation that came up in episode 3, girl drama, I brought up a Potts girl that was sending me feet pics, and it kind of annoyed me. Well, I never said her name in that episode, but she texted me the other day complaining that I mentioned her in my podcast, and I said, no, I didn't. So then she accused me of lying, and she said, yeah, someone said you were making up some shit about me. Now, the fact that I didn't say her name and merely mentioned where she worked, there are so many people that go in and out of Potts' employment every semester. It could have been a number of people I was talking about. My guess is she either told someone what she did and they recognized the story when they listened to this podcast, or she heard it herself and was just using her quote-unquote friend as an excuse. That being said, the fact that she is saying that I'm making stuff up about her when I didn't even mention her and merely mentioned that a girl did such and such kind of proves that she did do it. Because, say you send me feet pics, and I say on the podcast, I said, oh yeah, a girl was sending me feet pics and it bothered me, and you go out of your way to make it known that it wasn't you, everyone is going to think it's you. What the smart thing to do is to just keep your mouth shut, and nobody will know, unless you already told the whole town before I release the episode, which, in that case, then why the heck do you care that I'm telling everyone about it? Plain and simple, if you don't want someone to find out that you did something, don't do it. And on another note, if you don't want me to, make whatever shit you try to pull on me public, gossip, don't fuck with me. It's that simple. Like, whether I was running this podcast or not, I don't understand why some people go out of their way to fuck with me or fuck with other people. I swear to God, there are people out there who just cause problems for the sake of causing problems. And it angers the shit out of me, which brings me to the final part of this episode. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about a girl who is a horrible person, and I saw this when I started talking to her, but I kind of wanted to mess with her. It got out of hand really quick, but after she unadded me on Snapchat, she messaged my Instagram and she said, I need you to not mention my name in a public forum ever again. This includes Instagram and your podcast. If you mention me directly by name again, I will have my lawyers contact you for a defamation lawsuit. Alright, so the fact that she's worried about me talking about her on the podcast tells me that she already knows that she's fucked up. And in other words, she's basically saying that, yeah, I know that I fucked you over, but I'm gonna pretend like it's not true and get you sued for it. Now, I do have screenshots of our conversation, and I'm going to tell you right now, I said some fucked up shit to her. And I did that on purpose because I didn't like her. And like I said, I wanted to mess with her. That being said, if you guys haven't noticed, a lot of times I don't use people's names in this podcast, or I just use their first names. Well, one, that's to protect their privacy, even though a lot of times I talk about people that have fucked me over on this podcast and I don't really have a lot of respect for them. I still need to protect their privacy. Two, it's a liability issue because they can come after me, and if I don't have proof or enough proof of what happened, they could potentially sue me or get my podcast shut down. You know, the only full names I've mentioned, I know I mentioned Sophie Breeze when I made an episode about her, but I didn't say anything bad about her, so I don't think that's really going to be an issue. I've also mentioned Tyler Jin a few times, but Tyler's one of my best friends, and I don't have anything bad to say about him, so that's not really a problem either. Now, this particular girl, and I'm going to say the details for the next episode, but this particular girl who's threatening to sue me, her name is Mia, I'm going to say it, and that is a basic white girl name. There are so many people named Mia. I know at least 5 of them. I could just say, oh, I'm sorry, I was talking about a different Mia. Let me tell you something. No matter how unique your name is, there is somebody else on this planet that has that name. So as long as I don't use your full name on my podcast, I should be perfectly fine. Unless I specify exactly who I'm talking about, which I haven't. I've only used first names. Sometimes I don't even use people's names on this podcast. And you know what I don't get is the only people that have spoken against this podcast are people who have had issues with me before. I just started this podcast maybe a little over a week ago, and it already has about 500 views, has a 4 out of 5 rating on Spotify, and people are texting me every day how much they love this podcast, and I love making it. But if you don't like me, like the people who have spoken out against this podcast who already have had an issue with me, I don't understand why they're listening to this podcast in the first place. I mean, that's like me saying, oh, I hate Taylor Swift and everything about her, but I just bought tickets to her concert. It doesn't make sense. As far as the situation that happened with Sidhu, I haven't said anything that the rest of the campus didn't already know when this first happened. Everything that I say on here is, like I said, 100% accurate to my knowledge. I generally talk about my experience, living in Tallahassee for 2 years, and all the crazy stuff I witnessed or was involved in and experienced, and I'm pretty much telling you my story from my point of view. And I was going to go back to Tallahassee next semester, but now half the city hates me, so I might actually just stay out of Tallahassee for good. And I'm living in Jacksonville right now, but I'm probably going to go up to Tennessee in a couple weeks. And because Jacksonville's a little close to Tallahassee, and I don't need another Sidhu type person tracking down my address to bring more drama to my doorstep. If I'm ever taken to court, I'm hoping you guys will have my back. But whether you guys have my back or not, I will tell you right now, I will fight to win or I will fight to die. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that this podcast stays on air as long as possible. If it doesn't, at least I know that my voice has been heard and I said what I needed to say. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And, I'm not going to let these manipulators who are cocky and think that by being big bullies, they can, control you. I'm not going to let them threaten me with lawsuits to try and convince me to make my podcast about different subjects or to take down certain episodes. What Sidhu did, if anyone else was in my shoes, they probably would have never forgiven him either. And what's happening to him now, where he's drawing attention to himself and people dislike him, he did that to himself. He made the decision to find out where I live and to come to my house and disturb my peace. and now he's living with the consequences. So no, I'm not gonna unblock him and give him another chance, because even, let's say, for this argument's sake, let's say I did forgive him, this kid went psycho all because his phone went off while he was trying to sleep, and he attacked me for it. What's to say I become his friend again, and then sometime later, he beats me up again for something else? I mean, if he was willing to lose his cool over that, who knows what else he's gonna lose his cool over. So no, I'm not gonna forgive him, and no, I'm not gonna unblock him and let him back into my life, and no, that episode is not coming down unless I am legally forced to take that episode down. And now he has to live with the consequences of his actions. Anyway, that's it for today's episode. Next episode, I'm gonna be talking about Mia. I'm not gonna specify which Mia, but I'm basically admitting to harassing her. Now, before you judge me on that, just please go and listen to the next episode. Keep partying hard, my friends. This is the Tallanasty Podcast.
Rolling right, close the pass on the other. It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown FSU! Calvin Benjamin! Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining. Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining. Arthur looks like for the hook and lateral. There's the lateral to the right side. Now they go back a little bit later. Pass back to the left side. They got the number runners at Trey Mason. Mason running to the 30. Mason to the 35. He's tackled. Game over. Knowles are the champions of